Yes, I'm ready to start streaming.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't.
And not what you don't.
Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Let's get this show on the road.
All right. We had a little double beat there. Eat to the beat. I'm drinking some coffee today because I'm not feeling too well. And I'm thinking about going to the doctor's or the emergency room after the show. Now that's shocking. But the show must go on. So let's deal with that. Okay?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
First of all, we want to get out of the way here, Trey. I think this is a video from Trey. I slowed it down a little bit. Let's take a look at it. I didn't hear any audio on it when I played it, but check this out if you want. Here we go. Like I said, I didn't hear any audio on it when I played it on my thing, and there may or may not be audio on it. I don't know. It's Thirsty Thursday. I'm drinking coffee because that's good for your liver, supposedly. You know, and I was looking over some of my blood work. And I was saying this the other day, how I was way off the charts on some of these things. And it's the reason, you know, I've been having these abdominal pains. Man, I hope I'm not dying. Because I wanted to at least catch the end of the world. But my alkaline phototaphase, or whatever the heck it is, which should be no higher than 119, is like 276. My AST, which is supposed to be no higher than 34, is 203. And my AST, which is should be no higher than 34, is 203. Unfortunately, both my doctors are not in their offices now, and I'm not going to the emergency room. I'm drinking some coffee, and I'm sitting here, and it's not as bad as it was through the night. Though I did take a Tylenol, two extra strength Tylenols around midnight or 12:30, and I think they might have an 8-hour thing. So who knows? I may buckle over in pain in about a half hour, or an hour. I don't know how long this show's going to be. You got to have a sense of humor about this stuff. One of the possibilities is that I got a liver problem or something like that, which I really can't imagine. I mean, I have drank. It could have been a coincidence that I drank a couple days before the blood test. I don't know. Talking about this stuff just kind of makes me feel worse. So let's try to get into the show. The title of this show is, remember,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
So you got to deal with some of my whatever I'm talking about because it's my show. And so it's Tony Caravan Live. I had the date. Let me adjust that date. It's July 29th, the year 2021. And the title of this show is Lockdowns Part 2 Are Coming. Lockdowns Part 2 are coming. And the title card image, if that's what brought you here, and I'm talking about somebody in the future since basically I have no concurrent viewers. I found a picture of, this is from Russia, the Siberia, Siberian side, Russian side of the Arctic Ocean. Okay, and so when we were doing explorations, or just I was doing, covering dispatches, and we were putting together documentaries of this trip, various trips across the ice, the Arctic Ocean, which is frozen ice. Like I said, you can land a helicopter on it if you wanted to. But anyway, on one of those trips, these are some woolly mammoth tusks. And I know it's kind of gross, how they have this thing kind of squared off and stuff. But you can see from like the letters and the different things on the side, this is like an archaeological dig. And, this is people working, the Russians doing things. And if you look closely at the cave side where I have a paradigm shift in the way we live and view the world, you can see there that that's like an ice wall. This is still this is frozen. And of course, I just happened upon this picture this morning when I was looking for something else. But I do have other things, and I do have video footage. But like I say, it's very hard to sift through terabytes of stuff that I have done, because I haven't been involved in these things since, I guess, before 2010. I don't know the last time I did I'm not. Was somewhere around that point. So it's at least 10 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark. So you can, and since that time I moved. I moved several times. Like I say, I move around a lot. It's just the nature. I'm mobile, and I had, it's just too much to get into. But I do move. I move a lot. It's not like I'm on the run or anything. It's just that I tend to move, and I work on projects. And like I've said before, when I work on a project, I complete a project and then move on. Whereas some people are just like bureaucrats, and they just sit there and they spend 42 years and then retire doing the same thing every day in, day out. They say coffee's good for your liver, and they say some of those numbers could point to some liver problem. I don't know. I got a pain in a little bit in my back, so I don't know what's going on. I will keep you informed, because I will, one way, shape, or form, talk to a doctor or go to an emergency room today. I got to get this figured out, because last night it was like I got through the night, but I was popping Tylenols and stuff like that. Anyway, let's get into the show. Enough about me, and don't worry about it. So it's, when I say, there's two things. At the very end of yesterday's show, I mentioned something that bears repeating, because I don't know if people really make it to the 2-hour point in my shows. It's very doubtful. And even if you did, this definitely bears repeating, because we're going to use this as a stepping stone. The idea is that I believe that another round of lockdowns are coming, and this next round is going to be worse than the next. And I hope I'm wrong, and I may be wrong, but my thinking was based on the recent Apple, back in June, the WWDC, which is the developers conference that Apple holds every year in June. And that's where all the developers of apps get together, and Apple shows their upcoming OS and things that they're working on and what they plan to put out this fall, in time for the holiday buying season. And so they give, they give these a version of that software and all of these ideas, and I was very I'm just not going to get into jargon here, but in other words, they give the coders the tools they need to interface with the new Apple OS and the new like iPhones, iPads, Macs or whatever. Anyway. And so one of the big things, and I talked about it at the very end of the show yesterday, was they apparently on one of and they made a pretty big stink about it, and it was early on in the presentation, and they seemed really super excited about it, and it was about FaceTime, and the idea was that you can, if you don't know what FaceTime is, if you're somebody who uses a Windows machine or you're used to Zoom, or Google's Duo, Skype, FaceTime, is the same, is like those things. Okay. That's Apple's version of Skype, Duo, Zoom, and all that kind of stuff. And so, and it's incorporated into their smartphones as well as their, desktops, computers. And now it seems to be going to be incorporated into the Apple TV app. All right. And the way I understand from the presentation, which I saw, is that if you have FaceTime and your friends have FaceTime, because this is an Apple thing, so their idea is to sell, obviously, get you to buy the new iPhone and the Apple app, Apple TV app, obviously, and so that you and to purchase or subscribe to Apple services such as Apple Music and their through their Apple app, their movies and shows. And so what you're going to be able to do in this, what they showed in this demonstration, and you can tie this in again, the Apple TV app is something that works on a smart TV or through a set-top box as well. Or it's built into if you have I happen to have my computer's I think it's a 27-inch or almost, it's at least a 27-inch monitor. I haven't measured it lately and I forget what it was. It's a big thing. It's pretty big. All right. And sitting fairly close to it, you get, it's a big screen. So you can watch a movie on it, and I do, I kick back my chair sometimes and I'll watch, watch some things. Not often. I watch most of my stuff upstairs, but I have the Apple TV app up there. I'm just not currently subscribed to that service. I was when they first came out, but there's kind of like a void in production like there is everywhere. There haven't been any shows that have really piqued my interest enough for me to say I'm going to pay X amount. Okay, to make a long story longer and get through this thing and drink my coffee before it gets cold. Hopefully this processes through my liver or whatever the heck's going on with me. I hate tests. I hate doctors. I hate going places. And I got a cat that freaks out, and I got nobody. So the only way for me to get somewhere is to get there through some kind of ride, like ambulatory ride or med van or something, which likes you to give 48-hour notice. So hopefully my doctor next door can figure something out. Anyway, who's not in and only works one day a week, and it's a Tuesday. Oh, and today's Thursday. That's right. They don't work on Thursdays. Shit. So I'm screwed with that. So I'm going to have to make a phone call. Excuse me. All right. Enough of that. That's great news. Chill. All right. So you're going to be able to use FaceTime, and if your friend has FaceTime, so you could get like, say, 4 or 5, I don't know how many people, you get a bunch of people together and you're all on FaceTime, and you could have like a movie or TV viewing party. And it's not like you just chat, like you would just be chatting, though you could chat, but you have FaceTime, so you could see people's faces. And I don't know how you could probably have the option of arranging them on the side of the screen or something like that. We'll see when this thing comes out. They basically introduced it. I don't remember the exact specifics of it, and I didn't take a screen capture of the demo. But the idea is they're pushing this big time, and it costs money to develop technology. And the same idea is with their Apple Music. So in other words, if I have an Apple iPhone, or if I have an Apple computer and I subscribe to Apple Music, all right, and you have an Apple device and you subscribe to Apple Music, one or the other of us or both of us, we can have playlists, and we could sit down. I could sit down at my house, and you could sit down at your house, and somebody else could join in, and we could have our FaceTime open so we can see each other. We could be drinking a beer or a glass of wine, listening to the same music, and just talking about it. As if we're at we decided to go out to a restaurant. We're sitting so it's like you're at a virtual bar or something. And the same is with the idea of the movie. So it's like, people get together, come on over, let's watch a movie together. And so the idea is FaceTime will now allow you to do this with other people. Now, you could always have done this, but this is like kind of extra because it's all in sync. So it's all tied in directly to your devices, and, you could project it onto your big screen TV if you have the Apple app, Apple Music through your speakers. You're listening to the same sound, so it's almost as if you're present in the same room, which is a little bit different than Skype. Or Duo, not a lot different than Skype, Duo, or Zoom, or whatever. To understand, where you can have certain things interjected and shared and all that stuff. This is actually made. This is like a new thing, okay? And a company. What I was saying yesterday was companies don't invest that kind of money. And put that kind of thrust, in their presentation, if they don't have some advanced knowledge that this thing's going to be hot. And remember, why would it be hot if we were back to normal in the fall and winter? In other words, if there wasn't a lockdown. Because otherwise you would just, you've always been able to FaceTime and hang out with people who are far away. I mean, that's and Zoom and Duo and Skype, etc. But this new dimension that they're adding to it to really make the experience immersive, more or less, And I guess you could even have a VR headset on. That would be an interesting idea. And that's where they're going with this ultimately, I'm sure. All right. And I'm sure Facebook, may well be making some kind of announcement like that as well. Eventually what's going to happen is the idea is that you're going to be sitting in a virtual room, watching, a virtual theater, perhaps, sitting side by side, in these theater seats, or in this theater that's like, someone who has like a home theater room, and you'll be sitting there, or, virtual couch where you'll be sitting with your popcorn, and you're watching a movie or a show or binge watching together with your friends in a virtual world. Or Apple calls it augmented reality. Other people call it virtual VR, virtual reality. So this is the direction they're going, and this is a big deal because all of this technology is based upon the idea of people not getting together. So this same technology would be used for a sports night if people wanted to watch a big game, right? You could all watch the game together in real time, all right? And so that's where Amazon Prime comes in. They've added a new feature. It's already on their if you have the Amazon Prime Video, if you go there, you'll see that starting to appear, like Watch Party or something, I forget what it's called, is starting to appear under their movies and certain shows. So they're doing the same thing. And those are just two that I'm aware of because, again, I don't have TV and I don't subscribe to all those services. Like I discontinued Netflix because there was nothing on it. I had Paramount and I got rid of that because I watched a couple shows, but there's nothing else there to interest me. So I have no idea what everybody else is doing, but I've got, two big, Apple is a major player. Amazon is a major player. So it seems to me that they've already gotten the information. And we know from press releases, the press secretary, I guess, that the government is already in cahoots with big tech, for other purposes such as censorship and things like that. So they have an open line of communication. So they got the word. Hey, there's going to be a lockdown next, this fall, this winter, this flu season, basically. Well, that's the end of that. 2 cups of coffee. First one strong. Second one wasn't that strong. We'll see what that does. I don't think 2 cups of coffee is going to cure whatever I got. Now, remember last year. Okay, so that's a point of departure. All right. Now, if you look at last year, Amazon online had its best year ever, because of the lockdown, right? Everyone was just ordering stuff. And so did Walmart. And Walmart has gotten involved now in delivery, has really improved their delivery service. In fact, you not only, you can order and just sit there and they'll put it in your car, but in many cities now, Walmart will actually deliver the groceries, deliver anything in the store to you. They're doing that in certain towns. Next town over, about a half hour away, they have that. People up there can order anything online, like, grapes, a tomato, whatever, a vacuum cleaner, and Walmart will deliver it, that day. And then there's a service called Instacart, which I've talked about before, which I've used. And that's growing and getting popular, and more people are signing on to it. And I think they have, I'm not sure if they have CVS on there or places like that, but I'm pretty sure they have at least a pharmacy. I know they have a lot of places like Aldi, Dollar General, Save a Lot. I noticed that there's even some wine cellar place and stuff like that. So, and they're same day delivery, literally. And you could pay extra and get it within the hour or something like that. But you'll get the stuff within a couple hours that same day. And it's everything. It's not like Amazon where, you could just order these things, something, a TV or something goofy or whatever, or little parts and things you order on Amazon. I don't know. I order all kinds of things on Amazon. But I don't order, Amazon, and they have a food division, but you don't get fresh. You can order basically a half gallon of milk. I ordered eggs. I ordered a dozen eggs, and because I wanted eggs and sausage for breakfast a couple of weeks ago. And so I ordered a dozen eggs, and they came and they weren't broken, So, that's what this is where we're headed. So when I'm saying on the title card here, a paradigm shift in the way we live and view the world. And the reason I'm showing this woolly mammoth tusks from this frozen ice cave in Siberia, because this is part of the archaeologists keeping this stuff frozen for their own studies of this. This is obviously, that is, you don't have a square mammoth, but this is the first photo I found. The other ones I have on my archives. I'll eventually show you movies of these things. All right. And so, and that gets into this idea that I've been talking about, that we're heading for these, excuse me, eyes itchy. We're heading for this crazy solar nova thing. So be that as it may, all right, it seems to me that they found, if Amazon had its best year ever last year because of the lockdowns, and Walmart had its best year ever because of the lockdowns, and I'm sure many other firms had good years, I haven't gone through, and looked at everybody's balance sheet, but these are public knowledge. These are things that have been released. And that these companies like Instacart and others are making, are growing fast and becoming very popular, then think about that. Corporations don't make decisions of that magnitude, particularly like in Apple's case or in even Amazon's case, to dedicate the personnel or the technology, the money, right, to develop this technology, unless they know there's going to be a lockdown. Because what I was trying to say before is that if there isn't going to be another lockdown, right, then people wouldn't care so much about this. There were always people that used Skype and Zoom, right? But what they found was, even with the Zoom the concept, is they found, many of these offices found that, well, we don't have to ever bring these employees back. And why should we pay these expensive expensive rents in these skyscrapers in the cities when we could just hire people to do this, grunt work from their house? Because, all computers, most people who work like this, working out of the home, they're just working at their computer. And it's what we used to call in the old days, they're pencil pushers, right? They're just there used to be people that passing papers, from one place to another, pencil pushers, paper pushers. And now they're just emailing and sending files and doing computer work. All right. It's just bureaucratic, technical, it's not even technical. It's just basically collateral work, collating information and whatever you want to call it. So you have that aspect of it where these companies have found that they can save a lot of money by doing this. We've already seen that the big companies like the Amazons and Walmart have had their best years ever because of it. And now we're seeing Apple and Amazon and who knows who else enter into this market. And then we're seeing these delivery services grow and grow and grow, and putting money into it and getting more and more companies to join in. And when a company joins into these things, there's a fee involved. For example, I know someone who was that was offered, a business person who was one of these services to deliver their goods. And that individual, the service is like $1 per order is what's charged to the service that fulfills the order, takes the order. And that might not seem a lot to you, but it technically is. That dollar has to be made up. And the dollar is, I think, introductory. It's probably eventually become more than that. So those are big decisions people made, and it seems that these things means that we're looking at a paradigm shift in the way we live. All right? And I would be very surprised that that all of this rhetoric and all this stuff we're seeing right now, that if there isn't going to be a planned lockdown this flu season, right? Because people forget about that. We have a flu season every year, and depending on the season, tens of thousands of people will always die every year of the flu, and sometimes there's years where it's been 50, 60,000 or more. And when you tie in pneumonia and people over the age of 80 and stuff like that, you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people that end up dying of complications of flu or old age anyway. And so what I'm getting at is that it seems that it's pretty clear to me, and I may be wrong, but it's like, show me the money, follow the money. It looks like the money already is pointing towards lockdowns because corporations don't make those decisions simply. That's just not how they work. You don't decide to invest in a certain thing and go, and have a whole department set up and put people and spend millions of dollars on something if you don't think it's going to be big and you're going to get a return on that investment. So it's something to ponder and think about, because it looks like, to me, it seems pretty obvious that's what's happening. And I mean, I could expound on that, I guess, if I wanted to, but there's really no reason to, because it's just that it basically it's self-evident. And so enjoy your freedoms while you have them, what freedoms you still have, because once the corporatocracy, as I call it, saw that, their eyes started to have dollar signs in them, they basically put pressure. See, because it's big tech, big pharma, I say this every show. The government is really a corporatocracy because, between the lobbyists and the campaign investments and contributions and all that stuff, politicians have always been owned by the corporate sector and the financial industry, the military industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, right? And then, of course, big tech. The marriage between big tech and government is so obvious, it's unbelievable. So it's hard to call it government anymore. It's really just a corporatocracy. And so the corporatocracy sees a value in this. And so they want those billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. And so that means a paradigm shift in the way we live. Because the bottom line is corporations are in business to make a profit for their shareholders, return on their investment. And that's it. That's their purpose. And that's capitalism. All right. Now, so, it's kind of a scary thing in one way. In another way, it's going to affect, I think a lot of people are so used to this or are so open, because it's amazing how people have such short memory, right? That I believe this is just going to be accepted by people, right? For some reason it says no data can. YouTube's just messing with me. But people are just going to accept this. In other words, it's a paradigm shift in the way we live and view the world. In other words, people are saying, for all the people you see who are out there, complaining, all the pundits who are, against lockdown and all of that, there are the silent, probably majority of people. I'd hate to think that it is a majority, but I think that a lot of people just are accepting it. They're just saying, look, I just want to live my life, and what will be. Que sera, sera. It's like the people with unemployment, who've been receiving that and just, and haven't gone back to work. In some cases, you hear the stories out there, where they're offering cash incentives for people to come, signing bonuses for people to come in on basically minimum wage type jobs or whatever, because they just can't find the people to do it. And so it looks to me like everything is heading in that direction, and people are open to it. They're accepting, they just don't, there is outrage when you look around the world. You've seen, demonstrations in places like France and other European countries. And there have been demonstrations in India, and the demonstrations around the world, and there's been demonstrations here in the U.S. as well. But it's like any demonstration, no matter how they try to frame the camera of the amount to make the amount of people look big. And even if there is a large amount of people at a particular demonstration, when you look at the populations of the individual nations, or corporatocracies as I call them, they're not that big. You see? It's like ratings. I always talk about ratings on TV. In other words, in a country like the U.S., where you have 330 million people, if you had 3.3 million people that were demonstrating nationwide, and the media was saying, hey, here's live from New York. We've got hundreds of thousands of people on the street. Here in Chicago, hundreds of thousands of people are out. Look what's happening in LA. There's over 500,000 people on the streets in Los Angeles. The same down in Atlanta. Look at, right? Philadelphia, DC. Well, when you tally up all those various 100,000s and 500,000s, it might only come up to 3.3 million people. Well, what is 3.3 million people in the U.S.? That's 1% of the population. That means 99% of the people weren't out on the streets and weren't protesting. You see? And see, that's how they mess with you. It's like and I was saying, it's like the ratings. These stations like CNN, Fox, and MSNBC, whatever. They, their individual shows sometimes only get 1 million some viewers. And people think, oh, wow, million. And it's like, that's like 1/3 of 1%, right? And if somebody sometimes tops it and gets a few million, it's still less than 1% of the U.S. population is watching that particular cable channel, whatever their thing is. I don't watch any of them. And you have to put that into perspective to understand that a lot of people are just sitting on the sidelines and adapt. They don't want to ruffle the feathers, and they certainly don't want to be pointed out. They don't know who their neighbors are. They don't want to be turned in. So they go along with whatever, the edicts are. And even though in privacy, and if they have a best friend, a confidant that believes the same thing as they do, then they'll talk about it. I have friends send me emails and we could talk among ourselves because we agree and I know them and they know me. But what I'm trying to say, in general, the average person, you don't know, so you're not going to just openly in a public place or in a workspace or somewhere in a grocery store just spout out something because you don't know, and you don't know what they're going to do. In some of these countries, they're offering like the fines for individuals as well as the owners of the businesses, right? And that's, that sucks, But, people are, in order to stay in business or in order to go out, people are going to have to, they conform. Conformity is a horrible thing, but I mean, that's the way it is right now. There's a lot of people conforming. I think the majority of people are conformist right now. They just don't, they're not going to go out in the streets, I mean, even, it's like even the left and right type of thing, and like I always say, like your people, and I don't want to get into politics, but if you look at the Save America thing versus Build Back Better and all that kind of stuff, and you look at the crazy rallies last year, all those people that came out for those rallies and stuff. But when you tally all those people up, even though those rallies were outrageous and you had like 50,000 people showing up sometimes at a rally, you still have to put it in perspective of 330 million people. And so, where it seems overwhelming, there's just too many people that just are, they don't want to ruffle feathers. They just go with the flow. And so the technology firms right now seem to have the inside dope on the fact that there's going to be a lockdown this winter. This coming flu season. And that's why they're introducing this stuff. Because, as I said, corporations don't spend millions of dollars on investment in a product, or services unless there's going to be a return for their investors or their shareholders. So I think what we're witnessing is a paradigm shift in the way we live and view the world. And that's why I have that on the title card. And I just wanted to, today's show, I'm not going to keep this super long, but I just wanted to reinforce this idea of this flash frozen. Now, this is like now for something completely different, like out of Monty Python. It's this idea of this solar, because this ties into this whole Great Reset and this Davos set and the World Economic Forum people. This and the Paris Accord and all that stuff. So when you have this picture of a woolly mammoth, like I say, I always like to bring things firsthand that I have firsthand knowledge of so that I know are accurate. It's not like I search the internet for something. All right. This is a photo that was taken on an expedition that I was covering. All right. Live. These were, three people we were filming it was a documentary. 3 people were walking basically to the North Pole, the geographic North Pole. As I said before, the magnetic North Pole is already pretty much heading towards Siberia, just like the magnetic South Pole is now off of the continent of Antarctica. But anyway, so this is firsthand, and I have, like I say, I have video footage and I have some other things, but this, and you can do research on this because I'm not the only guy who has this kind of thing. And so these things have been preserved in some of these ice caves where these archaeologists have worked on this stuff, to check this out. And they have found in woolly mammoths, ones that have been preserved in full. This obviously is one that has been cut into. I mean, I don't want to gross you out, but the idea is that there was undigested plants in their stomachs, meaning they were flash frozen. And so one of these other things that is just totally off the radar by everybody is this idea that every 12,000 years the sun has this nova event. And it's not a supernova where it destroys things. It's just a nova, and the sun basically shoots out this outer shell towards the earth and causes a near extinction event. I mean, this is like real serious stuff. And if you could watch some of my previous videos where I get into more specifics about it, and I will in time, get in more into that. So what I'm saying is that whether or not that thing, and I don't know, maybe perhaps tying these two things together, is wrong. But in one way, you have to wonder, why all this madness through the media and politicians? What are they trying to divert people's attention away from? Why are they trying to lock people down? And why is there seems to be outright lying going on? And the stories change from week to week or month to month, so you don't know what to believe. So are they hiding this fact that we're in this 12,000 year cycle right now, and that we could be standing on a precipice, and it's not a laughing matter, of a near extinction event, which has happened before? Research the Younger Dryas period, right? And these woolly mammoths that basically were extinct. And there was like a big giant bears and cats in North America that went extinct at the same time. In other words, they were just flash frozen and they were just gone. So anyway, that's kind of it. That's all, for today. I just wanted to make a short show. Like I said, I got to deal with some medical issues and, get that out of the way. But I didn't want to leave you hanging, because we do these shows 7 days a week, every day. And I didn't, so I'm still alive. So I'm going to deal with the things I've got to deal with, and we'll deal with this topic more in depth in the coming days and weeks. So as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll let you know how things go. Otherwise, visit TonyCaravanLive.com. It's just a web page, but it's got links to all my stuff. So check it out. It's,